Hello, I'm Andrew Smith, and welcome to Module 1 of How to Create a Business Plan in Less than a Day. The purpose of this first module is to give you a big picture understanding of how business and project planning can be done simpler and faster. And I promise not to swamp you with any complicated details. This session will be my first step in giving you a simpler way to get organised so you can get better results. Before you and I get into the core of this explanation, I need to briefly cover 2 points that should make this material better for you. To begin with, the name I've given this method that I'm going to teach you is the Accelerated Planning Technique. To make this simpler, we can shorten this to APT. It's quite likely that you may have some mild or serious skepticism with my claim of being able to produce a business plan in less than a day. Skepticism, in my opinion, frequently makes good sense. So I'm very comfortable with you being skeptical at this stage. I see it as my job to present the how-to information to you as clearly as I possibly can. You can then be the final judge. Now, is that a fair deal? With those 2 items covered, let's get into the essence of this session. In a moment, I'm going to walk you through the contents of a typical APT-style business plan. This should give you a good insight into how a good business plan can be prepared simply and quickly and be result-focused. Let me now introduce you to the company involved, H.W. Brown, and show you how they use the APT method to reorganize their business operation when there was a big downturn in the economy. For confidentiality reasons, I've changed some names and details. Here's some background. H.W. Brown is a specialist supplier to the building and home improvement industry. For several years, business has been very good for this company. And in 2007, as part of a growth strategy, the company signed a building contract for a new and significantly larger showroom and distribution centre. In June 2008, the new building was completed. A month later, the shift had occurred and they were operational. And everything was looking good until the October 2008 economic meltdown occurred. And soon the building industry was in trouble. For Ted Brown, the managing director, this was a major shock and a personal setback. You see, the new building and the expansion was all Ted's idea. To add to his problem, his operational manager had decided to resign. Ted was not a happy man. However, he's not a man who accepts defeat easily, and soon he has his mind in gear to work out a survival plan. He arranges for his management team, their accountant, and a trusted advisor to spend a Saturday doing some accelerated business planning. This turned out to be a very productive session, and I'll show you what they came up with in just a moment. This is where I want to use a bit of special license and involve you into the story. Now, this may require you to use a little bit of imagination. Imagine that H.W. Brown has hired you as their new operations manager, and today is your first day on the job. Your first task today is a briefing meeting with your new boss, Ted Brown, a somewhat happier Ted Brown. After welcoming you on board, Ted explains that he wants to orientate you by walking you through their new business plan. Oh no! Not the business plan, is the thought that runs through your mind. And you imagine a document that's about as thick as a city telephone directory and about as interesting. But to your surprise, what Ted points to is a poster-sized page that's pinned up on the wall. You then notice that most of the document is covered up with yellow paper that's held in place with mapping pins. Ted points to the top of the large page and breaks the silence, saying, "Imagine that this box at the top represents our complete new business plan. Ted then removes one of the yellow cover sheets. Ted then explains to you that their new business plan is quite simple and just focuses on the 4 key performance areas of the business. They are operations, marketing, financial management, and customer service. Ted then goes on to explain that their new strategy is about seriously reorganizing these 4 business areas so that they can cost-effectively provide superior service to their existing customer base. Ted then shifted the cover sheet to reveal some of the lower details that had been obscured. He then explains to you the problems that they have been experiencing in their operations area. He then goes on to say, because of your operational experience and your people skills, I want you to focus on improving and systemizing these 4 functions. Ted then uncovers another section of the chart. He then goes on to explain that he would also like you to have a general understanding of the rest of their new business plan. Ted then outlines the changes and improvements they intend making in their marketing activities. Ted next draws your attention to the financial management changes they have planned. He talks about break-even reporting and why it's necessary. He also outlines what they will be improving in the areas of profit reporting, cash flow management, and tighter procedures for capital expenditure. Ted then completely uncovers the chart and draws your attention to the last 2 of the smaller boxes. While Ted is explaining the issues involved here, you glance at the wall clock and think with some amazement, gee, in less than 15 minutes I've had their business plan explained to me, and it's understandable. You also think to yourself, it's all on one page and the visual format is different. Now, so far, Ted has only given you a verbal explanation of what the plan is about, and you are curious to know about the action plans, so you ask Ted to explain. To answer your question, Ted hands you a blue ring binder. He then explains that for each box on their visual business plan, there is a page in the ring binder to cover the strategy specifics or action plans. Now that completes the simplified explanation. In a separate session, I'll show you the specifics of how this method simplifies the creation of action plans. I'll also show you how to prepare a business plan or a project plan to suit your business situation. Now let's summarize what we've covered in Module 1. The planning method is called Accelerated Planning Technique, or simply APT. I explained that it's okay for you to be skeptical, and it's my job to anticipate and address any skepticisms you may have. The core message of this session was that the APT planning method works by visually breaking down a big plan down into simpler, smaller, and doable chunks. Now here's a side note. From time to time, you may need to communicate your plan to others. I think you'd agree that this visual planning approach makes this task simpler and clearer. So what's next? The focus of the next module will be about giving you some basic knowledge so you can make a start on creating a business or a project plan of your own. Well, that's all for now. I look forward to working with you again soon.